brakes started squeaking. The dealer said to bring it by Thursday. Next Thursday.
Midas can fix your brakes right the same day you bring in your car. Midas, because your brakes can't wait.
Big, beautiful people looking for lots of love. Hi, I'm Angela, and tomorrow on Good Day Pittsburgh, meet the woman who's made it her business to do the matchmaking, plus the St. Patrick's Day celebration.
The real Nancy Ziegenmeyer on hard copy.
Up next, the buses stop here. Day one of the Port Authority strike forces thousands to find other ways to get around. Plus, first-hand experience makes this man an expert on presidential politics. We'll talk live with former Governor Michael Dukakis. And the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania says thanks to the Clown Prince of Baseball. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us on Monday. First, the latest on that Port Authority strike. After breaking off talks early today, talks between Pat and the Transit Union Local 85 representatives have not resumed. After expecting the worst, rush hour traffic moves along relatively well. And saying it's hurting the little guy, Mayor Maslow asks for a quick end to this strike. Now, the morning rush never quite produced the predicted gridlock today, but what about the drive home tonight? Neil Spence is in the sky right now with a live look and a traffic update. Neil.
Don, very much like this morning, Pittsburghers are able to adapt to just about any situation. They have so tonight. Now, we do have a heavy rush hour. Now, I'll start with the Parkway East. It's at Bates, but that's normal. The Fort Pitt Bridge has receded. The only thing that's heavy now is the bypass ramp over top of Point State Park. We had 2 earlier accidents on the Parkway, and that caused some massive tie-ups. Otherwise, there wouldn't even be a delay at that point. East Ohio Street slow at Hines up through the 31st Street Bridge. That's normal. One of the most congested routes leaving the city is Liberty Avenue. That tie-up starts by the Greyhound bus terminal all the way out to 28th Street. So we're looking at, roughly about a 17-block delay before it begins to pick up speed. Then as you cross the Bloomfield Bridge, you'll find out halfway across onto Liberty Avenue as you go out off of the bridge from Bigelow Boulevard. In Oakland, we never did have any major problems materialize on 5th Avenue, Forbes Avenue, or the Boulevard of the Allies, whether it be the morning or during this afternoon's rush hour. South Hills commuters have had it the worst. It's staying heavy on Carson, on 2nd Avenue. Liberty Bridge, though, is thinned out. It's a quarter of the way across. Flying over the Mon River, Neil Spence, WTAE.mp4 News.
All right, thank you, Neil. Before the situation gets better, though, it will likely get worse unless and until Pat and the transit workers can come to a contract agreement. While commuters try to negotiate their way home, state mediators today try to negotiate a meeting between the two sides. Sheila Heine is live on the bluff now overlooking the Parkway East with a wrap-up of today's day one of the Pat strike. Sheila.
Well, Don, there's some good news to report. County Commissioner Tom Forrester has just confirmed that there is movement in getting the two sides back to the bargaining table. Pat officials said that after some prodding from state mediators, they did agree that they are willing to go back to the bargaining table. Now, whether the union will agree to that or not, we still don't know, but it is possible that we could see them negotiating again tonight. Now, at this point, from my vantage point, traffic looks pretty good, certainly not the gridlock that was expected, as you said earlier. But if the strike isn't settled soon, commuters will pay the price. Downtown parking lots nearly filled to capacity this morning were about the only obvious signs of a strike.
Today has been a pretty good day, really. We're about 15-20 minutes earlier than I normally get downtown.
That rush hour crunch that was feared never materialized, but the strike did put the brakes on some commuters, especially in the South Hills.
This hill's normally, I run down it and I'm at work in 15 minutes.
How is it taking you so far today?
Half an hour.
Most commuters are taking it all in stride, but the day-old strike is already testing their patience.
I just wish it would end soon. It's a long, cold walk.
I'm not real happy about it. I'm not real happy at all. I'm disgusted with it, in fact.
But the most bitter players in this strike are those walking the picket lines in the bitter cold. They maintain their strike is not against commuters. It is against one man, Pat Executive Director Bill Millar.
Tell Mr. Millar to follow his own rules that he wanted. He wanted the fact-finding. We agreed to it. He turned us down.
They got to get together, unload Bill Millar, and get somebody in there that wants to talk with the union and negotiate in a reasonable manner. There's no room for Bill Millar in today's world.
Millar is the key player in negotiations, and so far he hasn't budged. Talks broke off after 3 hours last night. Millar headed back to a fleet of empty buses and trolleys.
Union negotiators headed toward the picket lines, and commuters were left out in the cold.
About the only winners in this situation are the downtown parking garages. One report says business was up today about 25%. And just to remind you, Pat has said it is willing to go back to the bargaining table. We're still waiting to hear from the union as to whether it will agree with that or not. So negotiations could resume tonight. Let's hope. Reporting live from the Bluff near Duquesne University, I'm Sheila Highland. Don, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. Now, Pittsburgh Mayor Sophia Masloff is urging the two sides to come back to the bargaining table. Mayor says this strike is not only causing major inconvenience for thousands of commuters, it's really hurting those who depend on Pat to get around.
There's nothing we'd like better to have them get together and settle it. I'm sure it's not good for business, and what bothers me most of all is that the poorest of the poor are the ones that are being hurt the worst. They can't get to their jobs, and they have no other means of transportation. So that I'm saying to both all concerned people, hopefully they can get together either today or tomorrow and continue negotiations, because they walk away from negotiating, we're done.
Also today, the Port Authority approved a plan that allows cars with 3 or more riders to get $1 off to park in city-owned parking lots. And I think there were 14 in the downtown area. It doesn't appear that the thought of rush hour gridlock kept many people from going to work today. We checked with several major companies downtown, none of which reported any unusually high rate of absenteeism. Now, let's get on to presidential politics today. All 3 Democratic candidates, Bill Clinton, Paul Tsongas, and Jerry Brown, continued campaign sweeps across Michigan and Illinois. Both states have their primaries, as you know, tomorrow. Joining us live now from Westminster College in New Wilmington, right outside of Newcastle, is former Massachusetts governor and presidential candidate Michael Dukakis. Governor, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Don.
Let me ask you this. The latest polls show Paul Tsongas trailing Bill Clinton by 20 points in Illinois, closer to 30 in Michigan. He faces possibly a third-place finish in Michigan. Would that be the end of the Tsongas campaign?
No, I don't think so, Don. Remember, I had a very good Super Tuesday in 1988, and then I got absolutely creamed in Illinois, and Jesse Jackson beat me in Michigan. And I had 2 very, very bad weeks, and yet I came back in Wisconsin, won in New York and then in Pennsylvania, and went on to win the nominations. So this is a long-distance run. I think it's going to go for several more weeks. I didn't really have that nomination locked up until after we had finished at least New York and Pennsylvania, and that wasn't until late April. And I think it'll be at least until then before we really know who our nominee is going to be.
Governor, it seems that unless Jennifer Flower drops another shoe, Bill Clinton looks like the party nominee. But there are those in your party who fear that he will be a fatally flawed nominee. Do you share that fear?
No, I really don't. I mean, I think one of the things that Bill Clinton has shown is that he can take this kind of bashing, and some of it I think has been very unfair, and yet come back strong. By the way, Tsongas is a very tough guy, too. So I think in some ways this may be a preparation for what unquestionably will be another Bush attack campaign, and I didn't handle that well at all. This time, I hope, with the lessons that we learned in 1988, whoever our nominee is will be ready for that. I think we will be, and I think we're going to go on to victory in November. But we've got to be ready for that kind of thing, and in an interesting kind of way, I think maybe Clinton has shown that he can not only take 1 punch, he can take 4 or 5.
Governor, one final quick question, if I may. Several times in this campaign, your fellow Massachusetts politician, Mr. Tsongas, has referred to himself as a Greek who will fight back, implying that you were a Greek who wouldn't fight back. Does that ever bother you somewhat?
Well, I think what bothers me is my failure to do so, Don. You know, there was no excuse for our sitting there and taking the kind of stuff that was coming at us from the Bush campaign and from Mr. Bush himself and not responding until it was too late. So unquestionably this time around, given what happened to me and to us in 1988, we've got to be ready for this. Frankly, I think we've got to turn this attack stuff into a character issue on George Bush himself. I mean, if he's willing to use race again as an issue, if he's willing to attack his opponent's patriotism, this time I think we've got to do a much more effective job of turning this back against him at the same time that we're developing and articulating a real vision for this country. And if we do that, frankly, I think we're going to beat him and beat him badly.
Governor, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time, sir. Okay. Now, getting back to Washington politics and politicians, the House banking scandal is now under investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington. A spokesman for the office today says the criminal investigation began last fall after the scandal broke out. No details are being released so far about what's being investigated or the type of conduct which is under investigation. Well, winter is back with abandon. The cold days of winter will be a little less costly, it seems, if Equitable Gas has its way. The company announcing today it will ask the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission for permission to cut its rates. If Equitable gets the green light, most customers of Equitable Gas can expect to save about $2 a month on their gas bills. In the meantime, it looks like cold is the weather word of the day. Here is Joe in the Weather Center with more. Joe.
A little chilly out there, Donald. We had our low this morning of 9 degrees. A record for this date is 4 degrees back in 1911, so we were close, but it was really cold. And right now our temperature at Greater Pitt's 35 degrees. So far, that's our high for the day. 35 at Youngstown, 40 out west in through Cleveland, Zanesville, Ohio, Parkersburg, West Virginia. 41, Morgantown 36, and then still in the 20s over east through the mountains, and Martinsburg running 38 degrees. Here's the latest satellite photograph. Some high thin cirrus clouds, some breaks into Ohio. The next system moving in is a warm frontal system, and followed by a cool front that's out here in the western portion of the Great Lakes. That's all moving eastward, and as it moves on into our area, temperatures are going to warm up. The forecast for tonight, we'll call it increasing cloudiness, breezy and milder, but a low of 28 degrees before midnight, then temperatures rising to 40 degrees by tomorrow morning. And on Tuesday, mostly cloudy, breezy and milder, scattered rain showers during the day. They'll be fairly widely scattered. Tomorrow's high near 50 degrees, and that complete forecast coming up at 6. That's it. Here's Don.
All right, thank you, Joe. Tonight we have another look into the news of local neighborhoods here in the Pittsburgh area. News provided to us by a staff of 35 reporters from a local newspaper chain. We call it our Neighborhood Newsreel. In Monroeville, the Times-Express is reporting the sale of the controversial land on Johnston Road. The Gateway School Board has agreed to sell 52 acres of the property to Chambers Development Corporation, which operates a landfill. The plan is meeting some opposition from area residents who fear the expansion of the landfill will lessen their quality of life. Students in Penn Hills will no longer be able to take the easy road to graduation. The Penn Hills Progress says the Penn Hills School District has decided to drop the General Studies course from its curriculum. The district superintendent says he hopes this will make high school graduates more employable after graduation. And finally, hard times are even hitting local fire departments. The Eastmont Volunteer Fire Department in Wilkins Township now is seeking donations from local residents. And Woodland Hills Progress reports that the fire department will need up to $150,000 by 1994. This for the purchase of a new rescue pumper truck. And finally, some fifth graders in the Cranberry School District learned some history outside of the classroom. The Cranberry Journal recognized the students for using their journalistic abilities to interview older adults in their community. Both the seniors and students gained some history that books simply do not teach. Coming right back with Hellcast tonight, looking and living proof that it's possible to survive bacterial meningitis, but often at a tragic cost.
This Family Works moment is brought to you by King's Family Restaurants.
Another tip from Quinn, family detective. It was the case of the disappointed dad. Pops gave me a call and said his son wasn't trying hard enough in football. So I asked him, does the kid really want to play, or is he doing it because you want him to? Find out what the boy really wants to do and encourage him to go for it. It's better sharing in his dream than forcing him to live out yours.
Brought to you by King's Family Restaurants.
If you're never quite sure just when or where your food's going to show up, come to King's. At King's, you can count on lots of choices, lots of delicious food, and lots of time to enjoy it.
Because I'm a teeny bit late, your drinks are free.
Next time, make it King's.
Hello, my name is Adam Lynch.
In 1957, a young reporter from McKeesport began bringing the news to Pittsburgh, a big city full of hometown people. Today, more than 30 years later, more Pittsburghers turn to Adam Lynch for their morning news than the other two stations combined, because he's still reporting the big city news with a hometown flair.
Good morning, I'm Adam Lynch.
Maybe more Pittsburgh people like us because we're more like Pittsburgh people. News for people.
I'd like to talk to you about an invisible problem. The invisible bacteria that cause denture odor. Fortunately, antibacterial Effident kills those odor-causing bacteria for clean, fresh dentures.
Antibacterial Effident.
It starts with itch and irritation, and then hemorrhoid flare-up. For soothing, cooling relief on contact, get Tux medicated pads. Tux pads, the one hospitals trust most.
In recent months, we've heard a good deal about cases of young people on college campuses contracting bacterial meningitis. While many have died, little has been said about the survivors of this devastating disease, which is normally considered rare. Tonight, Marilyn Brooks reports that meningitis is turning out not only to be rare, but early recognition is also critical.
She wrestled from 8th grade to senior year, and she was good. Terry Harding became the first girl to compete in the WPIAL. Then, as a freshman at Gannon, when the world lay before her, she got what she thought was a bad cold.
I just had like flu-like symptoms, the headache, really bad headache. I mean, I normally don't get headaches, and this was just like a vice, just tightening and tightening.
It was bacterial meningitis. She lay in a coma near death for 6 weeks as the bacteria clogged blood vessels and caused gangrene.
I remember the first time I realized my hand was gone. I remember signing the papers to have my feet off, and them asking me if I wanted them off, and I just said yeah, because I was in such pain.
At 21, she's now being fitted for her 3rd set of legs in 3 years. But with Terry, you don't notice what's missing, only what is there.
Most persons would require some kind of assistive device. Terry takes off walking and can work herself into jogging or running.
She set a tougher job for herself, to make others more aware of the bacteria that lives in our noses and throats, that when a cold and high fever hangs on, gets worse in hours, to react to it faster than she did.
It causes a little rash, blood spots in the skin. That's one of the ways you make the diagnosis, and can cause shock. And it causes hemorrhage. And then it goes into the spinal fluid very quickly.
There's more. It's transmitted by coughs and sneezes. Anyone in close contact, usually military recruits, college students, even infants, can be victims. Allegheny County reported 113 cases since 1990, 7 of them this year alone.
Before antibiotics came along, bacterial meningitis was always lethal. But with the advent of penicillin in 1942, lives could and still can be saved, but only if the disease is caught in its early stages.
If not, it kills in 24 to 48 hours. These people know that. They are members of a newly formed support group.
And we never knew what it was. We never heard of it.
Here they are learning they're not alone, that there are ways to cope with their loss.
And this is when I really began to get scared.
Thanks to Terry Harding, it's their first meeting. It will not be the last. That and better physician awareness is what Terry wants. She'll do what it takes to make it happen. But this day, she must sit still. Getting new legs is an all-day process. So we left her there with her friend, her thoughts, her plans. Marilyn Brooks, WTAE.mp4 News.
Normally, meningitis strikes about 1 in 50,000, but the numbers are running higher for some reason in this area. There is, however, a vaccine to protect babies in daycare. It's called the HIB vaccine. College students and parents should remain alert for symptoms and act very quickly. Anyone interested in the meningitis support group should call 1-800-676-HOPE, H-O-P-E. John Goodman as the babe. Liz Miles has details next in the Entertainment Report.
Grandma, Mrs. Key needs 3 dozen more rolls for her party.
Fine. Tell her it'll be $7 more. And honey, make me a sign that says $4.
Grandma, are you and Grandpa rich?
Yeah, they make lots of bread.
Never mind him, Danny. We're doing just fine.
When you put everything into the family business,
I look a mess as usual.
you want a bank that will help you get everything out of it.
You look beautiful as usual.
Integra Bank. For times like these.
Don't you hate it when you go to answer the phone and you've just missed the call? All you get is that eeet. Well, with Return Call, one of the Bell Atlantic IQ services, if you don't make it to the phone on time, it's okay.
Hello?
It remembers the last number that called you and automatically calls it back.
Hello? It's time, honey.
Now let's say you need to make arrangements with 2 people in 2 different places. 3-way calling lets you get 3 people on the line at the same time.
But I'll never get home in time.
Hold on. I'll call Kate. Hello?
Barbara just went into labor.
Mike, you go straight to the hospital. Barbara?
And Call Waiting, our most popular service, lets important calls get through.
I'll lie down for a while. Thank you, doctor.
Call Waiting, 3-way calling, Return Call. Individual services can cost as little as $2.50 a month. Order all 3 and save 20%.
Hello? Oh, did just try to call.
Call 1-800-522-6625 now for Bell Atlantic IQ services. Order all 3 and save 20%.
No one can tell me that a country whose engineering took men to the moon and back can't engineer a quality car.
The award-winning Buick LeSabre, named a Best Buy by both Consumers Digest and Motor Trend. Why? Because of quality.
This Buick's engineering, styling, and quality is top of the line.
For GMAC financing as low as 2.9% or giant cashback, see your Buick connection. Test drive Buick quality today.
You want to know where to get a great deal on glasses? How about Pearl's 30 to 60% off sale? Every frame in the store is on sale. Every lady's frame.
Every men's frame.
Every kid's frame. Every frame is 30 to 60% off regular price. You don't even need a coupon. 'Tis a far, far bigger sale than Pearl has ever had before. But hurry, this sale will soon be history.
And right now, Liz Miles joins us with tonight's entertainment report.
That's right. CMU's Stephen Bochco, who brought us Hill Street Blues, has finalized a deal finally with ABC to create a new cop show for mid-season next year. Now, this is the same show that he wanted to be the first R-rated TV show in history, but ABC rejected that notion. The tentative title is NYPD Blue. And here's the rest of tonight's entertainment report. Jonathan Demme has won the Directors Guild of America's highest honor for Silence of the Lambs. In the past 40 years, only 3 DGA winners have not gone on to win an Oscar for Best Director as well. Since 1949, Jack McCarthy has been the voice of New York's St. Patrick's Day Parade, which has earned him a title in the Guinness Book of World Records, longest TV parade host. But this year, a long-standing tradition will be broken as McCarthy gets his first female co-host. She is writer Sand McClare, and they do seem to already be in tune with each other.
And if you're lucky enough to be Irish, you're lucky enough.
The new issue of Life magazine takes us behind the scenes of The Babe, starring Roseanne's John Goodman as Babe Ruth. The film will be a portrait of Babe we won't forget, according to Life's senior editor, Peter Bonaventure.
This will be the first movie about Babe Ruth that shows the Babe, warts and all.
1, 2, 3. Where'd you come from, Ruth? From Ruth today for sure.
He was as good with a bottle as he was with a bat. He was coarse, he was profane, he was gluttonous. He was a big kid in a man's body.
One scene in the film shows Babe Ruth hitting his last 3 home runs. That would be number 712, 713, and 714, at a time that he was overweight, over the hill, and playing for the Boston Braves a year after the Yankees let him go. And as Life magazine says, that was when he remembered how he used to do it. And the question for you, Don, is, when he hit those last 3 home runs? Easy? I never knew this.
Forbes Field.
Forbes Field,
hit him right here.
1935.
I wasn't there, but I remember hearing it.
No, but he was also the first one to hit one over the grandstand.
Yep, sure
Willie
was.
Stargell did it a couple times after that,
Yeah.
but he was the first right here.
The Babe.
Yep.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, up next, the hottest. Penguin drops his jaw. Here's more in today's Sports Reel.
This is Bill Hillgrove with a Monday Sports Reel. Don't ever confuse Rick Tocchet with Casper Milk Toast. The Pens right wing took a Mario Lemieux knockout pass to the jaw early in the second period last night. He came back to score a pair of goals to spark the Pens to a 4-3 victory. Today, Tocchet learns that his jaw is broken. He'll likely miss about a week of action. Everybody invited to the big dance, take a step forward, not so fast Panthers. Pitt has accepted a bid to the NIT to face Penn State at Happy Valley Wednesday night. It's been more than a decade since those rivals have met on the hardwood. The Panthers placed themselves in this position with a lackluster performance in the 12-point loss to Miami last Thursday. You get the feeling they'd rather be elsewhere.
I can see definitely where people could say that. You know, if I was on the outside looking in, I would say the same thing.
Meanwhile, Robert Morris and West Virginia have drawn interesting partners at the big dance. Robert Morris will play UCLA, the West's top seed, at Tempe, Arizona, Friday night at about 10:30. Gail Catlett's Mountaineers will take on Missouri in the East Regional. That's at Greensboro Thursday afternoon at around 2:30. Other than feeling the effects of heel, thigh, and back problems, Larry Bird felt well enough to play yesterday in the Celtics' 152-148 double overtime win over Portland at Boston Garden. How's 49 points, 14 boards, 12 assists, and 4 steals sound? After the game, the 35-year-old Bird said he felt sore. Where does that leave the Trailblazers? This is Bill Hillgrove, WTAE4 Sports.
And with an army of commuters left without a bus or a trolley ride, lots of folks relied on good old planning and some old-fashioned ingenuity to get to work today. Let's join Sally in Studio B with a preview of what's coming up tonight at 6. Sally?
Don, some folks walked, a few rode their bikes, some even came by water. We'll ride the waves with those commuters at 6 as they talk about beating the Pat strike. And freshman Congressman Rick Santorum says he's going to stay put in his redrawn district. So we'll see you at 6. Don?
Okay, thank you, Sally. In financial news, here's a look at Wall Street, how it began this week. The Dow Jones posted a slight gain, less than a point today. Volume ended at more than 151 million shares, rather modest. Up next, an honor for the Clown Prince of baseball. Right now, how some local companies finished today on the big board.
Game just isn't a big game without a big sandwich to go with it. Now you can build your own with the Oscar Mayer Sub Sandwich Variety Pack. The perfect meats, the perfect combinations.
Hey, where's the food? Go!
And a taste that's unmistakably Oscar Mayer.
Hey, pal.
The Oscar Mayer Sub Sandwich Variety Pack. Nothing but the best.
Hey, say something for me.
Cadillac invites you to enjoy liberty and luxury. First, discover the value of the new Liberty Edition sedan and Coupe de Ville. Save up to $1,490 on valuable options, plus a $1,500 cash bonus direct from Cadillac. For almost $3,000 in savings on this limited edition. And while you're enjoying the Liberty, register to win a weekend of luxury for 2 at the Greenbrier, America's resort. Don't miss the Liberty or the luxury right now at your nearby Cadillac consultant.
You're not a kid anymore, you must be kidding me. You look 10 years younger than you're supposed to be. You got great muscle tone, bright shining eyes. Drinking milk every day. Well, that's no surprise, 'cause milk tastes delicious. You're not a kid anymore. And I'll tell you what's more. You're not a kid anymore. Milk's good for you. You're not a kid anymore.
Milk, 'cause you're not a kid anymore. Sure. Unsure. Sure. Unsure. Sure. Unsure. When dryness really counts, be sure to be dry. Sure Solid has the most effective wetness-fighting ingredient you can buy. For dryness no one can beat. So you're either sure or unsure. Sure. Unsure. Be sure to be dry.
A legend born in a Pennsylvania baseball park was honored today by state lawmakers in Harrisburg, but not for his pitching or batting. Max Patkin, better known as the Clown Prince of Baseball, was awarded a citation by the Pennsylvania House of Representatives for the laughs he's brought to generations of baseball fans. He's been clowning around baseball parks since 1946, when arm trouble cut short his minor league pitching career, and he was hired to do a comedy bit at an exhibition game in Harrisburg. And that is our 5:30 report. As always, thanks for being with us. Morning is straight ahead when I join Sally at 6 in Studio B.
This closed-captioned newscast has been a presentation of WTAE4 News.
McCain introduces something new to serve with your fries. A side of rock and roll. Right now, you can get a free 5-card set of Pro Set Superstar music cards, plus a free blank BASF audio cassette. Look for details on specially marked packages of McCain French fries today.
Hi, Mom. Man, looks like you've really been cooking.
McCain, the French fries that crank up the crunch.
the Lakeview Resort and Conference Center, just 90 minutes south of Pittsburgh, where you'll find two of America's finest championship golf courses. Get a jump start on the season with Lakeview's Early Bird Golf Package. At this special rate that includes breakfast, unlimited golf, carts, an excellent room, dinner, plus use of all Lakeview facilities. Call Lakeview toll-free. Ask for the Early Bird Golf Package. Lakeview Resort and Conference Center. It's the easiest drive in golf.
This is my new Dodge Caravan. Dad says it costs under $14,900. Mom says it's a great deal with air conditioning at no extra charge when you buy the Family Value Package. It's safe, too. With the driver's airbag, rear seat shoulder harnesses, you can even get available built-in child seats. Maybe that's why Caravan is the #1 selling minivan in the whole wide world. Dodge Caravan, recommended by kids everywhere.
The world is full of kids who need a grown-up for a friend. Become a big brother or big sister because little people need big people.
This is WTAE.mp4 News, with news for people. Don Cannon, Sally Wiggin, Joe DiNardo, and Bill Hillgrove. And now, WTAE.mp4 News.
As commuters rush home from work, Port Authority buses and trolleys sit idle tonight. Their drivers and mechanics walking picket lines on the first day of what could be the area's first prolonged transit strike in nearly 15 years. Good evening, everybody. An interesting challenge for Pittsburgh commuters today as tens of thousands of PAT riders are forced to look for some other way to and from work.
PAT's union kept its promise today. 1 minute after midnight, some 2,700 drivers, mechanics, and other employees walked off their jobs and onto their picket lines. And just 1 hour later, the union's negotiating team walked out of a meeting with Port Authority representatives and the Allegheny County commissioners. Neither side reports any progress in those talks, nor will they say when negotiations might resume.
And so Pittsburghers caught in the middle of that transit strike were left to fend for themselves. Most folks who brave the morning rush hour seem to cope pretty well. But now we're facing the flip side, the ride home tonight. And Beth Dillner joins us now live from the Bluff with more. Beth.
Looks like it's running pretty smoothly right here, right now, Don. So maybe the traffic part of this first day of the strike did not turn out to be the huge catastrophe that many people were expecting, but that does not mean that it was easy going for any of the thousands of people who really wish they had a bus or a trolley to drive home tonight. For many of them, it was a lot like putting in a whole day of work before even getting into the city. At about 4:30 this evening, a mob of would-be Port Authority riders crossed the Smithfield Street Bridge headed for the fringe parking lots at Station Square. Cheryl Wilkerson works in an office building on Wood Street downtown, and to get home tonight, she is carpooling with some neighbors. They had a long walk from downtown across the bridge to Station Square and then to the lot there, and that is how she got home. How she got to work this morning was a different story. Her morning strategy does not work in the evening.
Well, I rode in with a neighbor whose business is up at Forbes by Birmingham Bridge, so I hopped a ride with him, but he doesn't go home till 6:30. So how I'm going to get here tomorrow, same way I got here today. Walk from Mercy Hospital.
How long of a walk was that? How long would you say?
It took me about 20 minutes. Wouldn't have been so bad if it wasn't so cold.
The people with whom Cheryl Wilkerson got her ride home tonight say that the strike is already expensive. They totaled it up, $3 for parking at a fringe lot. Then they had to, this morning, go from Station Square to the Golden Triangle on the Gateway Clipper, a few more dollars. And then because they left home so early this morning, they paid for breakfast out as well. $17, day one of the Port Authority strike. Reporting live from the Bluff, I'm Beth Dolinar. Sally?
And Pittsburgh Mayor Sophia Masloff learned firsthand this morning that most people simply aren't willing to join carpools. The mayor was trying to set an example today, but couldn't find anybody to ride with her from Squirrel Hill to downtown. Still, the mayor believes Pittsburghers will pull together and somehow get through this strike.
Absolutely. Talking about pulling together, whether it was pulling together or pooling together. Many commuters seemed well prepared for the first day of the strike. They were up and out early and getting to and from creatively, as Ken Rice reports.
We're going to Stanwyck Street.
It was rather brisk for a sunrise cruise on the Three Rivers, but
Riverboat shuttles between Southside parking lots in downtown had commuters lining up just after 5 a.m.
We're all very dedicated to be down here this early.
It wasn't all smooth sailing, though. The shuttles were so popular, this ticket gate quickly went belly up.
I have a Highland, I have a Larmer on a Larmer Avenue Bridge and a cab in Munhall, that's all.
Taxis were also popular alternatives. Yellow Cab says it, too, found people out to get an early jump. Business between 6 and 7 a.m. was up 100%.
Things are really picking up. They're booming here.
But with extra operators and dispatchers, the cab company says so far, no major problems. In Oakland, parking was a problem. If you didn't get to some lots early, you didn't get a spot.
Cars were coming in all over the place. We didn't know where to send them.
They could have sent them here to the largely vacant Biotech Center, where campus shuttles were ready but idling.
No, I'm not that busy.
Seems most comers opted to park closer, like in Shenley Park, where they were backed up past the 18th green. Others parked illegally, blatantly. Some got away with it, some did not. For those without access to a car, there are jitneys, but this driver says he appreciates the crisis and won't take advantage.
Man, I don't want to rob the people just to get a couple dollars, you know. I mean, I would be just as bad as the Pat bus drivers.
It is good for our business, but obviously, you know, in the spirit of what's good for the city, we would like to see a quick end to the situation.
For now, one way or another, Pittsburgh copes. Ken Rice, WTAE 4 News.
And now for a bird's eye view of the evening rush, let's go live to Neil Spence in the WTAE traffic plane overhead. Neil, didn't take long for Pittsburghers to adapt to the transit strike, it seems.
No, it really didn't, Don. They adapted very, very rapidly for the morning rush hour and the afternoon rush hour. Right now, no traffic problems whatsoever. As you can see of the Liberty Bridge, even the Parkway East is clear. That just bunches up around the Saline Street Bridge. The Fort Pitt Bridge just slow on the bridge deck. It looks real good in the South Hills on 51 until you approach Bayside and 88. The one major hot spot remains Liberty Avenue, about a 12-block delay from 16th up to 28th Street. And I would say the second major area is going to be Irvine Street and 2nd Avenue going through Greenfield and Hazelwood, but the rest of the city has cleared out and the traffic seems to be moving real well. Flying over the Golden Triangle, Neil Spence, WTAE 4 News.
And once again, your best bet for staying on top of the transit strike developments is to listen for our commuter alerts right here on WTAE 4 News.
In other news tonight, if you're one of the Allegheny County residents faced with delinquent tax bills, you can now use plastic to pay them off. Taxpayers can now use their Visa or MasterCard to pay off delinquent real estate and property tax bills. Treasurer Mary Alice McDonough hopes to improve collection rates while providing relief to taxpayers who don't have the cash right up front. To almost no one's surprise, Congressman Rick Santorum announced today that he will run for re-election in the newly redrawn 18th Congressional District. Santorum says that he thinks he can win, even though he's a Republican and the district is now heavily Democratic. And as Ann Leinenberger reports, he says that he had nothing to do with revealing the scandal that may have helped scuttle a potential rival.
Rick Santorum spent the first official day of his campaign visiting Fox Chapel High School in the familiar surroundings of the old 18th District. It's a different kind of place than, say, McKeesport or Clairton in the new 18th, and Santorum knows it.
We're going to go down there and sell a message that not liberal or conservative, but community.
Santorum says he knows no one's giving him much of a chance of winning in the new 18th, but he says no one gave him a chance of upsetting 14-year incumbent Doug Walgren 2 years ago either. And on the subject of Walgren, Santorum denies that his outspoken support for revealing the names of check bouncers at the House Bank had anything to do with the fact that Walgren was considering a comeback. The Associated Press puts Walgren fourth on the list of the worst check bouncers, with 858 bad checks written at the House Bank over 16 months.
You heard a lot of names throughout the course of this investigation of who the abusers were and who are some of the names, but I can honestly say I'd never heard his name at any point in time.
But Rick Santorum can't be sad to see Doug Walgren out of the race. He has plenty of other things to worry about, like convincing enough Democrats they'd be better off with a Republican congressman. Ann Leinenberger, WTAE 4 News.
Doug Walgren says that he made his decision not to run in the 18th before his name surfaced in the check overdraft scandal. Walgren says he feels he has done nothing wrong, and he says that while he has no reason to doubt the accuracy of the House Bank numbers, he has yet to be able to look at the numbers himself.
Well, coming up, Joe has a brief taste of spring. Won't last very long.
His forecast is next on WTAE 4 News.
I'm
Bobby Von Zanos, coming up after weather, find out how these inventors ended up with debts instead of dreams come true.
For growing pains, capital gains, piano lessons, therapy sessions, mothers-in-law, the late thaw, battles hard won. This is your day in the sun. South Carolina.
I drove the BMW 20 times. I drove the Acura once. And I bought the Acura Coupe, and I love my car.
The surround sound, unbelievable. The stereo is unbelievable in the Acura. Everybody that rides in a car sits there and plays for 15 minutes to stereo.
The Legend is my dream machine because when my wife's not with me, it becomes my sports car.
Become a satisfied customer. Test drive an Acura today at your Western Pennsylvania Acura dealer.
As a physician, I'm concerned about the countless promises being made in hair replacement ads and commercials. That's why we developed this comprehensive 28-page guide on hair loss. Inside, you'll find information about the real causes of pattern baldness, as well as medically proven treatments for restoring your own natural growing hair. If you have questions about hair loss, this booklet just might have the answers you're looking for.
For your free copy, call Dominic A. Brandy, MD, and Associates.
WTAE-TV knows family works.
I grew up with two older sisters, and as you might imagine, it was not always easy. Not only were Randy and Sue bigger than me, they were smarter too. I remember how they used to love to tease me and get me in trouble. But by the time I was big enough to be a worthy opponent, we had already learned to get along, and now we're the best of friends. Life is not fair.
Integra Bank, King's Family Restaurants, and Pittsburgh Mercy Health System, celebrating the joys of the American family.
I understand spring is right around the corner, or something like that.
Well, the corner must be 5 miles,
away.
This is maybe 500 miles away.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to warm up just for a bit tomorrow. The good news is tomorrow morning, for the commuters, it's going to be about 30 degrees warmer than it was this morning. And our low this morning wasn't a record, but it was 9 degrees. A record for this date was 4 degrees. It is 4 degrees, set back in 1911. And our high this afternoon reached 35 degrees. A normal high this time of year, we should be hitting those highs of around 48 degrees and lows of 29. But today in Pittsburgh, we were 16.5 degrees below those normals. Currently, International Airport. Fair skies out there. It's high, thin, scattered cirrus based at 20,000 feet. The visibility, you can see for 20 miles with a temperature of 35 degrees. Humidity, 47%. Surface wind southwest, 14 miles per hour. Barometers falling, 30.11 inches of mercury. That's reduced to sea level. On the satellite photograph, clouds have now moved into the Rockies and the Pacific Northwest. Southern California, most of Arizona is still in good shape, as is the Missouri Valley across through the southeast, through Florida, and up the East Coast, but very cold temperatures here. Clouds associated with this front up through the northwestern sections of the Great Lakes will be influencing our weather over the next 24 to 36-hour period. And the summary of National Weather Service radar sites shows echoes now, light rain showers into Wisconsin, on down into Illinois and eastern Missouri, more in the Texas Panhandle. They've just issued a tornado watch out for the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles up until 10 o'clock our time tonight, and that goes through the Pacific Northwest and down along the West Coast. This morning here in Pittsburgh, very clear but extremely cold with 9 degrees, and through the day we have clouds gradually moving in from the west-northwest. And this is a fairly good shower now, moving into about Madison, Wisconsin, coming up on Milwaukee. Nothing showing up on local radar. Here's the latest surface map. A number of record lows in Pennsylvania, Ohio, on up through the New England states, and Allentown, Youngstown, record low of 7 degrees, previous record 8 degrees back in 1970. Here's this area of light shower activity now that's moving eastward in advance of this front. This particular low-pressure center is just going to take its good old time coming across, and that'll start to influence our weather come Thursday. The flow pattern at 18,000 feet, this high pressure is giving us a lot of dry weather from New England right down through Florida, but it's still out of the west-northwest, and the warmer air out here is going to gradually move into Pittsburgh overnight and tomorrow. But then tomorrow night, this front will come right on through the district and cool us off a little bit, but not nearly as cold as we were over the weekend. So tonight, look for clouds to be on the increase. It'll be breezy and milder. Our low of 28 degrees will occur before midnight. Then temperatures will be rising up to 40 degrees by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Tomorrow evening, that frontal system, which is up in through the upper peninsula of Michigan, will have moved southeastward through our area. And at this point in time, the showers, scattered variety, will have ended, but still showers to the south of us and out west. And here's this low pressure center beginning to develop, and that'll move east-northeastward along this front. Keep us cloudy on Wednesday behind it, but bring rain here on Thursday. Forecast for Tuesday, mostly cloudy, breezy, and milder. Scattered rain showers tomorrow. A high of 50 degrees, just about normal this time of year. Tuesday night, variable cloudiness, breezy, cooler with a low of 30 degrees. And on Wednesday, front will be south of us, but this low should still be far enough away that no precipitation will occur Wednesday. Mostly cloudy and a little cooler, high of 45 degrees. On Thursday, as that low moves up along the front on the extended, cloudy with occasional rain. High on Thursday, 45 degrees. Friday, mostly cloudy. It'll be breezy and turning colder with some snow flurries. High Friday, 37 degrees. Then on Saturday, mostly cloudy, continued cold. Some light snow developing, and a high Saturday of 35 degrees, which is about 13 degrees below normal. So tomorrow it'll be above normal day, then back down to near or below normal again. So not a real warm-up to stay with us. One day.
What do you think? Me too. More news straight ahead, and later in sports, Pitt basketball may be a wallflower at the big dance, but they'll play at least one more game.
And still ahead, a Penn's right winger gives new meaning to the word tough. Bill Hillgrove and sports are still ahead on WTAE.mp4 News.
Are you floundering around looking for something tasty to eat? Then head down the pike to McDonald's. Right now, you'll land a delicious filet-o-fish sandwich to the tuna at just 99 cents. No, you're not herring things. Just 99 cents for a crispy fish fillet with melted cheese and tartar sauce. It's a great fish story. Throw in a large fry and medium Coca-Cola Classic, and you've got the catch of the day. McDonald's filet-o-fish, just 99 cents, because what you want is what you get, and that's no abalone.
Hi, Tom Barrasso for your Lincoln Mercury Penguin Power team. Great saves? I've been known to make a few, but so have your Pittsburgh area Lincoln Mercury dealer. Like the great save you'll find on the value-packed 92 Mercury Topaz. Look at all it has to offer. Plenty of room for the whole family and great savings. Yep, I'll go to any link to make a great save.
Hey, Barrasso, catch!
See what I tell you.
See your Lincoln Mercury dealer today. Penguin Power.
Michelle Iozzo knows the joy of watching things grow, and also the pain. 3 years ago, Michelle was diagnosed as having breast cancer. Chemotherapy, a mastectomy, and radiation treatments weren't enough to stop the growth within her. It was then her doctor learned of an innovative treatment, one that was being offered at Allegheny General. There, Michelle underwent a bone marrow transplant to protect her immune system during higher doses of chemotherapy. And thanks to the treatment and care she received, Michelle Iozzo has a chance to see her world blossom and her children grow. Allegheny General, on the frontier of advanced specialty care.
If you think you've invented a better mousetrap, it could be a ticket to fame and fortune. But as consumer editor Yvonne Zanos reports, for all too many of us, it's a one-way ticket to financial disaster.
Yeah, Don, invention marketing companies have been around for a long time and are a booming business in this country. Despite repeated warnings about the limited success rates of these kinds of companies, consumers with dreams continue to hand over hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Many are disappointed. For Jacqueline Hux, the road to financial loss started with what she still thinks is a great idea, a product called Bag It, to help women keep handbags organized in their closets. It's a product Jacqueline Hux says Invention Submission Corporation thought was a good idea too.
They make you feel that your invention is really it. You feel that you really can make some money. You have the best idea.
$2,500 later, Jacqueline says she's got a lot of professional-looking paperwork, But she says no product, no patent, just money down the drain.
It's gone. It's like I threw it away. I could have took it outside and tore it up. I didn't get anything, any kind of satisfaction for my money.
Debts instead of dreams come true. That's what Patricia Diane Brown says she got for the $5,000 she gave the same company to help her get her invention off the ground.
It's called the nail keeper. What it does, it protects women's nails as they dry.
And even though the contract and paperwork from the company is peppered with protection for the company and what should be warnings to consumers, many ignore them. We do not evaluate inventions, the company states, or express any opinion of what companies may think of them. We accept most ideas for our services.
They say they do not guarantee success, and they say that it is a high-risk venture. And some people overlook that part of it and really buy into the sales pitch that, yes, you have a good idea here.
I expected more from this company. I know it's a good idea, and it just ended up in the wrong hands.
Invention Submission Corporation says neither of these women complained to the company, and they feel that their complaints to us are not justified. ISC declined to give us a number of inventors they represent or the number that have had success, but say they have achieved financial success for a small number of inventors, but don't publicize it because they say they don't want consumers to believe that their inventions will be financially successful because others have been. Anyone who promises customers profits, they say, is fooling them. But next week we are going to introduce you to a woman who did not go to a company like this but is enjoying some profits. She did it alone, and we'll tell you how she did it.
And the other thing wasn't a bad idea.
No, it's actually a good idea.
Okay, well, thank you. Coming up next, Bill Hillgrove joins us with our day's sports.
And also coming up, have you ever heard of radio resumes? Well, tonight you will. That story after sports.
There's a new automotive standard emerging in this country. A standard that virtually defies comparison to any that have come before. With a reputation for quality second to none. And a desire to make it even better. The men and women of Toyota Motor Manufacturing in Georgetown, Kentucky. They just couldn't leave well enough alone.
Woman Care is brought to you by McGee Women's Hospital and Thrift Drug.
Medical genetics is applying the scientific knowledge of genetics to the benefit of patients' health and welfare.
Visit a medical geneticist if you are concerned about pregnancy after age 35, a family history of birth defects, prior miscarriages, environmental exposure that may harm the fetus.
Our goal is to really make sure they understand the medical facts in becoming pregnant and having a normal baby as possible.
This is Carrie. She's 10 months old. When she gets sick, it's bad enough. But how do I get her medicine? I certainly can't leave her alone. Do I bundle her up and take her outside? What am I supposed to do? I've always gone to Thrift for prescriptions, well, for lots of things. And now they deliver free. When that car pulls up outside and we're inside, I can't tell you how good that feels.
Tough guy. Tough isn't the word.
I think hockey players as a breed are tough guys.
Yes,
but maybe
sir, they
not
are.
this tough. This is Ed Van Imp tough, if you go back that far, and Sally, I know you don't. Rick Tocchet will miss tomorrow night's game against the Edmonton Oilers and likely the next two because of a broken jaw suffered last night in Chicago in the Pens' 4-3 win over the Blackhawks. Taking a look at it, second period, watch Mario Lemieux's pass, right side of the screen, hits Rick Tocchet right in the face. He had to leave the ice. They stitched him up. They didn't bother with x-rays last night. These were taken today. Meantime, he returns, same period, scores his 21st. That makes the score 3-2 Chicago, and he added another goal. Third period, Joey Mullen with a drop pass. Larry Murphy, power play goal. Pens dig themselves out of the grave and defeat Chicago 4-3 despite being down by 2 goals. Whether they want to or not, the Pitt Panthers must extend their basketball season despite a stretch run that saw them stumble and falter. Thanks to the NIT, officially known as the National Invitation Tournament, the Panthers get to take a bus ride to State College, Pennsylvania, to play a team they haven't faced on the hardwood in a decade, the Penn State Nittany Lions.
And after the game, coaches told us to have a vote on whether we go to the NIT or not, and players voted against it, and then that was overruled. And that's basically
by the coaching staff.
By coaching staff, and it really wasn't our decision to make in the first place. It's probably an administrative decision.
Darren Morningstar talking to Tony Zarella, Pitt at Penn State, 9:30 p.m. Wednesday at Rec Hall. The game will be televised on cable nationally. Dick Rode and I will have the radio broadcast. It begins at 9:15 on the Panthers Network. Jarrett Durham has heard that song before, but as tough as it is to travel to Tempe, Arizona to face the #1 seed in the West Regional, he's happy to be going, and so are his Robert Morris Colonials. They have to face the likes of Arizona and Kansas in the past, their last 2 appearances at the Big Dance. Well, the 19-11 Colonials thought they might be seeded as high as 13th, but they'll gladly play the Bruins Friday night at about 10:30 p.m. It sure beats staying home, which is what they did last year at the request of the NCAA prefects of discipline. And Gail Catlett's Mountaineers have been justly rewarded for their 20-11 season. The Mountaineers will face Missouri at Greensboro in the East Regional Thursday at about 2:30 to 3 in the afternoon. In baseball, the Cincy Reds scored their go-ahead run in the bottom of the 7th in a 2-1 exhibition win over the Pirates at Plant City, Florida today. Randy Tomlin had a strong outing, giving up 3 hits, 1 run, striking out 4 in 4 innings. Andy Van Slyke had a pair of hits in 4 at-bats, and he scored the Bucs' lone run in the 3rd. Don Slott will miss 7 to 10 days because of a rib cage strain, and Rosario Rodriguez will be out 5 to 7 days because of bursitis in his pitching shoulder. Bucs had a run on 6 hits, no errors today. The Reds had 2 runs on 8 hits and 1 error. Tomorrow the Pirates play the Houston Astros in Bradenton. Doug Drabeck gets the start against Ryan Bowen. When Corey Pavin brags to his grandchildren about winning the Honda Classic at Weston Hills in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which he did over the weekend, he's probably not going to even mention that 15-foot birdie putt to sink Fred Couples' hopes in sudden death. He's going to talk about this shot, an 8-iron at the 18th hole from 140 yards away. That forced the playoff. In sudden death, he sank the putt. Corey Pavin is the champion of the Honda Classic. Thank you to that great miracle shot.
That's amazing. You and I don't do things like that.
Oh, once in a while.
Once in a while.
But not for that kind of money.
Not for that kind of money. Okay, Billy, thank you. And finally tonight, you've heard of resumes and video resumes, but how about radio resumes? Well, WTAE radio talk show host Doug Hurth today gave 40 local job seekers about 90 seconds each to read their resumes on the air. Employers were encouraged to call in and make contact with the hopefuls who were seeking mostly white-collar jobs. 40 people and some employers have contacted. It was a great idea.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Good for them.
That is WTAE 4 News at 6. ABC's World News Tonight is next.
Of course, look for more on the Pat Strike tonight at 11, and you have a good evening.
This closed-captioned newscast has been a presentation of WTAE 4 News. The following is an editorial message from WTAE TV. Speaking for the editorial board is Paul Long.
In 1931, a young man nicknamed Speed was elected captain of the Pitt varsity track team. The university refused to allow him to serve as captain, but his teammates and his coach insisted it was to cost the coach his job. It was the first black captain of a varsity sport at Pitt. This was just one of the achievements of Everett E. Speed Utterback, a graduate of Duquesne Law, general counsel of Pittsburgh Housing, a member of the Western Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame. He played a big role in the civil rights movement and became a role model for the generation of blacks. He died this past weekend, and the community he fought injustice for and never forgot will attend his funeral tomorrow afternoon. He was 86.
Midfield Moments are brought to you by...
Today I'm sharpening my knives so you don't have to sharpen yours. Presenting my tasty and tender Fit and Easy line. They're my boneless and skinless chicken, turkey, and oven stuffer roaster parts. Not only are they easy to cook, but these beauties are also healthy to eat. My Fit and Easy line. I made it so the only knife you ever have to put to these birds is the one you eat with.
this is me? This is not me. Bond. Jane Bond. I don't know. This is me. This is me. This is me. This is me. Not. Oh, I wonder what this costs. Oh, this is me. But this is moi.
With all the things at Ross Park Mall, chances are it'll take you longer to round up your family than it will for them to round up exactly what they want.
You're watching KDKA TV2. Now, live from Gateway Center, this is Eyewitness News Tonight.
Good evening. We have learned that contract talks are scheduled for tomorrow afternoon in the Port Authority transit strike.
Allegheny County Commissioner Tom Forrester called the talks. Now, he says the Port Authority will be there, and he's awaiting confirmation from the transit union. Meantime, tens of thousands of Pittsburgh area commuters had to improvise today to get to and from work after bus and trolley service was stopped dead in its tracks at midnight last night. Tonight, on the picket line downtown, the mood of the strikers was upbeat.
I just hope the public hangs in there with us.
What do you mean?
Putting pressure on Bill Millar to give us a contract. We're not asking for the moon. We only want a 1.5% raise. That's what the fact finder got.
I don't want to be out here. I've been out here. This is number 4. I've been out here. This is stupid being out here. I'd rather be working down in the subway where I should be.
But this is the 4th strike you've been involved in.
Yes, it is. And I didn't care for any of them. Strikes were stupid.
So how did the 100,000 people who rely on mass transit make out today? Well, Ralph is over at Station Square tonight with an assessment of the strike's first day. Ralph?
Well, Patty, Pittsburgh did not come to a grinding halt today because of the transit strike and the parking of the trolleys and buses in town. There were some traffic delays and some traffic jams, to be sure, but certainly not the monumental ones that some people had predicted. People did what they had to do to get to and from work here. It could have been early Sunday morning at the Stanwich Street bus stop. It was that slow. It could have been, but it wasn't. It was the end of day 1 of the transit strike.
So I drove in originally this morning, and I waited in line 45 minutes, and they were saying that everything was full. So then I drove back home and had my mother drive me in this morning. And
now you're waiting for?
My mother.
Some people biked to and from work. Others walked. A tired Elaine Wasilowski took a shuttle, was part of a carpool, and finally ended up walking a few hundred yards to her Polish Hill home on Leander Street. It's a good thing she wore a comfortable pair of shoes.
I just bought a weekly bus pass last Friday in hopes that it would bring us all some good luck, but that's the way it goes.
Robert Sims was walking too, but not to work. He was with his young son after he called his new boss to say he wouldn't be able to make it in.
I'm working in Wilkinsburg at a restaurant just opened up, Jackson's. And I've only been there 2 weeks, and I couldn't get there today.
In some places, there were more taxis on the streets than usual, and not everyone had to worry about paying their fares. Their employers picked up the tab.
They gave us a yellow slip to ride the cab because the buses are on strike.
You would think even jitney cab drivers would be making a few extra dollars because of the transit strike. But this driver told me he was not suddenly striking it rich.
What made it bad, a gang of new guys came out. And they came out raising the price. They're asking people for $6 to go to the Shady Side Hospital. That's normally a $3 trip.
So recapping once again now, in just about an hour, we enter day 2 of this transit strike in the city of Pittsburgh. And the one glimmer of hope, County Commissioner Tom Forrester has called both sides to a meeting tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock at the county courthouse. And of course, before there's any sort of a settlement in this strike, there has to be a dialogue. Both sides have to be talking, and that is the good news tonight, Patty.
All right, Ralph, thank you very much. Also tonight, the Public Utility Commission issued an emergency edict allowing shared rides in yellow cabs. Normally, that's against the law, but this edict is in response to a 40% increase in cab ridership since the strike.
It's a shared ride program whereby more than 2 people can get into a cab and share the fare. We can go from point A and pick up Mrs. Smith to point B to pick up Mr. Brown, and basically they would share the fare at their destination.
What should your customers be aware of now?
But we're saying to our customers, even though we have a larger load or a bigger number of calls coming in, we can handle them. We're saying, please call the cab company, and instead of a 10-minute wait, please give us maybe 20 to 25 minutes, and we'll be there.
The PUC edict will remain in effect for the duration of the strike.
And as Ralph mentioned, there was a pleasant surprise as far as the traffic this morning, but tomorrow's news might not be so good. The man who would know best is Jay Pochapin, who gives the traffic reports on Eyewitness News this morning.
Actually, the rush hour was very close to a normal morning and a normal evening for that matter. The morning rush hour was particularly heavy approaching the Liberty tunnels from 51 and from West Liberty Avenue. Parkway West also stayed heavy rather late in the morning rush hour. My guess is that we saw a lot of people sit today out, and it went fairly smoothly. And I think we're going to see a lot of people jump back in tomorrow. My guess is tomorrow will not run as smoothly as it did today.
And don't forget, the parking lots in downtown Pittsburgh will fill up fast, so you are advised to park in the fringe areas. And here is what happened today, which may help you plan for tomorrow. The main lots at Three River Stadium was 85% full late this morning, but the other lots at the stadium still had plenty of spaces available. And the Gateway Clipper will now pick up people at the stadium and then take them over to the 6th Street Bridge. The boat leaves every half hour. Allegheny Center filled up early. They have to reserve some spaces, though, for employees of Allegheny General Hospital and for shoppers. Station Square saw an increase in cars. They filled about 1,200 more spaces than usual, but still had 800 spaces open. And the Strip District is also recommended as a fringe parking area.
Now, if you're interested in forming a carpool, there's a number you can call. The number is 471-POOL. That's 471-7665. Some people have already started carpooling. PennDOT says there was an increase of 200 cars on the HOV lanes on I-279 this morning. However, Pittsburgh Mayor Sophie Masloff says she tried to find some people in Squirrel Hill to ride into town with her this morning, but she couldn't find any takers. Don't forget, before you leave for work tomorrow morning, turn on KDK TV 2 for the latest traffic information. We're going to be on the air at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning with a number of live reports and updates. That's from 5 until 7 right here on TV 2.
It was lights out early tonight for 5,000 Duquesne Light customers. They are just about all back on now, but that power failure also took out traffic lights at the Liberty tunnels and the surrounding area. Now, parts of the south side were dark for the Mount Washington, Allentown, and Beltshoover. Duquesne Light said there was a circuit failure at the South Side station. You may also remember the judge in Houston, Texas, who agreed that a suspected child molester could be castrated rather than stand trial. The judge has now changed his mind. He apparently cannot find a doctor who will perform that operation. That decision touched off a storm of controversy. Critics said castration was barbaric. So now Stephen Allen Butler will have to stand trial on charges that he raped a 13-year-old girl. And if convicted, he could be sentenced to life in prison.
There's a new twist tonight in that House bank affair as lawmakers scramble to explain huge overdrafts on their accounts. The U.S. Attorney's Office says it has opened a criminal investigation. The U.S. Attorney would not say who or what might be involved, or what kind of conduct is being investigated. Democratic presidential candidates Bill Clinton and Jerry Brown are continuing to exchange verbal blows. During a debate last night in Chicago, Brown accused Clinton of hiring his wife's law firm to do work for the state of Arkansas. Clinton is governor of Arkansas. But today, Clinton shot back, repeating that Brown should be ashamed for slighting professional women.
Don't try to escape it. In a little state like Arkansas, if you're in one of the three biggest firms, your firm is going to have clients that have business with the state.
This is the sort of thing that happens to women who have their own careers and their own lives. And I think it's a shame, but I guess it's something that we're going to have to live with.
Clinton Brown and Paul Tsongas will battle it out with the voters tomorrow. Both Illinois and Michigan are holding primaries.
Well, the man who did not make it to the White House in 1988 was in Western Pennsylvania tonight. Michael Dukakis was the keynote speaker at a mock Democratic National Convention at Westminster College in New Wilmington.
Needless to say, I wish I were here in another capacity. We should have won in 1988, no question about it.
Every 4 years, Westminster holds a mock convention for the party out of power in the White House.
Well, our mock spring resumes tomorrow, Bob.
Yeah, we have a kind of a springy day in store for us tomorrow, a little on the wet side and mild, but the winter weather is not over yet, and I'll tell you all about it coming up in a couple of minutes.
They both share the same ideals.
I think healthcare is a big issue. I think education is an issue. I think the federal deficit has to be taken care of. But I think healthcare is going to be one of the big ones.
The convention will run through Wednesday, complete with a parade and the presidential nomination. For Newswatch 27, I'm Gina Marinelli.
You know, Gina's story talked about how the Democratic presidential hopefuls are fighting with each other. The latest are accusations made during last night's TV debate in Chicago. Jerry Brown had accused Arkansas Governor Bill